Hey there, and welcome to part 4 of the Media Composer Fast Start series. At this point, we've set up a project, built a rough cut, and enhanced our stories. So it's time for you, me, and Kenobi to enhance our audio. Let's get started. We can close any bins we're not using and click this menu if we want to clear the source monitor. If you close your sequences bin for whatever reason, Media Composer clears the timeline. So just reopen the bin and double-click the sequence. Let's duplicate our sequence. Just select it and press Ctrl or Command D on the keyboard. Then name it. Then double-click the duplicate to load it. Now let's set up for our audio session. Let's use Media Composer's audio workspace, located here on the right side of the interface. Now let's prepare our sequence. For Scramble King, we have 3 types of audio elements: Emilio's interview, a couple of gym shots with camera audio, and the music. Let's move the 2 gym shots to their own track. We'll use the red lift overwrite tool for this, so all of our segments stay in place. Let's deselect the trim tool, and then Alt or Option click the segment tool until the red lift overwrite is active. Then we'll create a new stereo audio track. We can press Shift Control U or Shift Command U to do this. To keep the audio in sync with its video, we'll hold Shift and Control on Windows or Shift and Command on the Mac as we drag an audio segment down to its new track. Now let's create a balanced mix between the voice and music elements. We'll start with level adjustments. We'll use this digital dB scale throughout this audio session. For Scramble King, we're going to make sure our audio doesn't peak above -8 overall. Let's start with Emilio's interview. So we'll solo his track, call up Clip Gain from this menu so we can monitor our changes in the timeline. You can open this track control panel by clicking this button at the top of the timeline. Let's play part of this.
My head instructor is Ray Casillas. I've been training under him for about 8 years now. I started when I was 14.
For Scramble King, we want the voice to peak between -10 and -14. So we'll park the position indicator over this segment, then adjust the fader for A1 here in the audio mixer. Let's play that back.
My head instructor is Ray Casillas. I've been training under him for about 8 years now. I started when I was 14.
That's a good start. Now we could adjust each segment one by one, but since Emilio's voice sounds fairly consistent, we can apply the -2 adjustment to all the segments on A1. So we'll make sure we're parked on the segment we just adjusted and go to the audio mixer's fast menu and choose Set Level on Track Global. Let's play part of this.
Scrambling out of positions and being very mobile when I'm rolling.
Often in documentaries and other unscripted genres, a voice's levels can vary quite a bit. So let's explore a plugin that can reduce the difference between the loudest and quietest levels by applying a compressor plugin that will reduce the difference between the loudest and quietest levels. Click one of these 5 insert buttons, which opens the audio track effect tool. Click this menu and select Stereo Dynamics and this compressor limiter. The defaults often work to compress the difference between the quietest and loudest sound.
My nickname is Scramble King. I got that from the way I compete.
Let's tweak the ratio a bit to reduce the dynamic range further, and then raise the gain to boost the levels a bit.
My nickname is Scramble King. I got that from the way I compete.
Let's apply another common plugin. Click another insert button and choose de-esser this time. From this plugin settings menu, choose Male DS. This softens the harsh S sounds picked up by a microphone.
My nickname is Scramble King. I got that from the way I compete.
This is sounding good. So let's move on to the 2 gym shots. On solo A1 and solo A3, let's play part of each.
Decision here, right? One is I don't want him to go back flat.
Here I step out, reach,
The difference in camera placement caused these to sound different. Let's adjust this segment. For this, let's apply a simple EQ adjustment so we can affect the levels for specific frequencies. The air system in this case, go to Tools, Audio EQ. We have a fader for targeting lower pitch frequencies, like our air system. To experiment with EQ, I recommend big adjustments. So with the position indicator parked over this audio segment, let's lower the low shelf fader all the way.
All right, so I'm gonna get here, I step out, reach, and at the same time,
That affected the air system. Let's see if we can affect it more by including more frequencies in our adjustment. Let's raise our trigger point from 50 Hertz to 80 Hertz.
all right, so I'm gonna get here, I step out, reach.
Now let's address this segment.
You need to make this decision here, right? One is I don't want him to go back.
This time, the HVAC system competes with raised voice. To fix this, we need a more robust plugin, or we could send this clip to a program like Pro Tools. In the meantime, let's see if we can enhance raised voice a bit with an EQ preset. Let's try this male voice with presence preset.
You need to make this decision here, right? One is I don't want him to go back.
It doesn't solve the background noise, but we can hear Ray better. Sometimes it's best to send challenging audio to a program like Pro Tools that specializes in audio. So let's move on to adjusting our music. We can start by alt-clicking the mini fader in the timeline to reset the music's clip gain. Unsolo A3 and preview a bit.
My head instructor is Ray Casillas. I've been training under.
Now the clip gain adjustment for music depends on how much it competes with voice. For the cruise track, let's try setting the clip gain so the levels peak around -22 to 20. Now we can either adjust A2 in the audio mixer, or if clip gain is enabled, in the timeline. We can click and drag this line. It's peaking around -20. What about these sections at the beginning and near the end where the music plays on its own? We can add keyframes to ramp the level up and then back down. To set up for this, we'll call up the volume option for this track. Select A2 and deselect A3, A1, and V1. To improve navigation, let's turn off the segment tool and zoom in a bit. Then we'll park the position indicator near the end of the interview where we want the first change to start, and then press the apostrophe key on the keyboard to add our first keyframe. Then move the position indicator to where we want the change to end and add another keyframe. Then click and drag the second keyframe up. You can monitor your level adjustments here at the bottom of the timeline. Repeat the steps at the end of this opening montage. Press the apostrophe key to add keyframes. Let's play this.
I train out of Tennessee Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy, based out of Spring Hill, Tennessee. My head instructor is Ray Casillas. I've been training under.
That's working. If you need to move a keyframe, you can hold Alt or Option and drag it. Let's do the same thing down here near the end. This music change is intentionally abrupt, so we can add keyframes closer together. Then we can follow the voice and waveforms to set the last two keyframes.
To become a black belt world champion. When it comes down to competing or motivating me to come.
Sounding pretty good. Now, you may have noticed some voice clips start and end abruptly. Let's smooth this out. To do this, we'll add crossfades. Let's mark an out after the last interview segment, and then an in just before the first interview segment. Then we'll enable just the A1 and A3 tracks. Then click this quick transition button here in the timeline bar. We can set a really short duration, like 2 frames. Then select Apply to all transitions into Out, and then click Add. Media Composer adds crossfades to each cut on A1 and A3 between the in and out marks. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you in part 5.